Mind-blowing FD build. Oh, shit. What's up, guys? James from SIKKY Manufacturing. Today I'm going to show you a walk around of this amazing turnkey LS swap FD RX7 we just completed. Let's check it out. So the heart of this swap, what you're going to find under the hood of this beast, is a brand new GM crate motor, the LS 376 525, which is probably one of our favorite engines to use for our turnkey builds. Can't beat a brand new GM engine, and the fact that it's around 500 wheel roughly by the time you do the mods required to get it into most chassis. It's a formidable engine that will turn just about any swapped car into an absolute monster. So we put a T56 Magnum transmission behind this engine, which again is also an awesome combination and one of our favorites to do. So this car's got all things SIKKY in it, from our headers, motor mounts, oil pan, even our new RX7 FD radiator system. It's just got SIKKY from the front to back, which always makes for a super easy and clean installation, and something that's going to be extremely reliable and stand the test of time to whatever abuse you can throw at it. So much like these FD RX7 stories often end, this customer absolutely loves the car just like we do. I mean, the FD RX7 is one of my favorites and probably one of the coolest chassis out there, but the unreliable rotary engine is always the Achilles heel of this setup. So after probably 4 different engine builds, 5 or 6 different shops working on this FD, he eventually broke down and realized that if he's gonna be able to drive this car daily if he wants, enjoy it, and have that reliability, he's gonna have to swap the engine. So easy decision when it all comes down to it, and turns out to make an amazing FD. Now this customer is no stranger to a high horsepower car, having several BMWs that are built well over 600 horsepower. So we knew we had to deliver with an engine and setup that was going to give him that same feel, but also keep it super reliable and allow him to enjoy this car every day if he wanted to. So when the car came in here, it also didn't have functioning AC, so that was another big thing. The owner wanted to have AC working so he could drive this car and enjoy it even when it's hot outside. So we got that all set up with the AC system, and it's working perfect. To slow this thing down with all the newfound horsepower, we also put a StopTech front big brake kit and the rear StopTech drilled rotors and upgraded pads on the back. Being this car was a 93, it was in dire need of some suspension improvements and upgrades, so we totally refreshed all the suspension and the bushings and steering components. Another issue we discovered during the swap is probably from lack of use and sitting around all these years with blown engines, but the fuel tank was really bad shape. So we put a brand new Atkins rotary fuel tank in it, which made sure that this fuel getting delivered to the engine is perfectly clean and no more rust flakes. The car is completely rewired with full CAN bus gauge and electronic integration. All right, that's enough of all the chit chat. Let's move on to my favorite part of any build recap video, and that is the test drive. And of course, I got special permission to have a little fun in this thing and rip a couple donuts for you guys, so let's send it. All right, time to take this puppy for a drive. It's got a really good lope, sounds awesome at idle. It's not too loud in the cabin either, which is always nice, you know, when you want to just cruise and use the car more on a daily fashion. You don't really want to have it super loud, but then when you step on the throttle, give it some gas, and it's good to be able to hear the old LS in there. All right, so I'll just take it through its typical paces, you know, kind of see what it's all about. Just the regular street driving, as well as some twisties. Let me get the AC on in this thing too. It's definitely nice having working air conditioning in a car like this. I mean, let's be honest, this is almost a supercar at this point with the amount of power it's making. Give her a little run up here. So we put some really nice tires on this bad bad boy. And you can really feel this thing just wants to hook up. Really good weight transfer. Yeah, I think it handles pretty well too. Like, just doesn't have a lot of body roll. Performing a lot better than a factory suspension. All right, so we're gonna merge on the highway here, see how it performs at a little bit higher speed. Probably do like a 2nd to 4th gear run, as long as I got the road to do it. Man, just cruising at 4 grand in 3rd gear and stepping on it. This thing just wants to throw you back in the seat. Pretty gnarly. Alright, so we're getting on the highway. Transmission on its own is awesome, but the shifter leaves you a little bit, to be desired there. And the SIKKY shifter, not only does it reduce that throw by like 44% roughly, but it just tightens up the trans, so it's more gated feeling, which, some people may like that, some people may like the big sloppy feel, but personally, and from most of our customer feedback, the tighter gated feel, you're more sure of what gear you're going into, which is awesome when you're on the throttle and hitting gears real hard. The worst thing you could obviously do in a manual car is put it in a lower gear by accident and dump the clutch. So that's usually a good night engine, regardless of rev limiter. But either way, shifter feels awesome. Make sure your shifts are clean and you're going in the gear you want to be in. The Magnum Transo with the gearing in this car in the rear is great. I mean, at like 75 miles an hour on the highway, like 2,500 RPM. So you're going to be sipping that fuel and getting really good gas mileage if you're going to take this thing on a longer trip and do some highway driving. Obviously, still fairly quiet in the cabin here. We didn't do anything additional sound deadening other than what was already in the car from the factory. So you could obviously, get nuts with some Dynamat if you really wanted to quiet it down. But again, it's a performance car, so you want to feel and hear a lot of, you don't really want to numb it up like, a lot of the modern cars today. You can't really feel what the car is doing. So we want to keep that connection to the road and the car itself, and don't want to mess with that. One of the big advantages of the SIKKY LS FD RX7 kit over the competition is that we utilize the factory front subframe and suspension points, so we're not messing with what Mazda spent so much time and money developing. And anyone that's driven an FD RX7 bone stock or what, they handle amazing. So you don't really want to mess with that geometry and change roll center and bump steer and all that some of the kits that relocate those suspension arms and move things down or change the actual subframe to the point where that's different, you're losing a lot of that performance handling that the engineers at Mazda developed with this car originally. So that all stays intact with the SIKKY kit. And we designed it to work with that components that we built the engine, or the components to fit the engine around the car and not modify the car to fit the engine. So that's typically how we approach our design and development of kits, and we don't really want to change stuff we don't need to change. And we'd rather make an oil pan or another component that fits and kind of leave that stuff untouched whenever possible. So factory suspension geometry is the key component to these cars handling well. That's unmolested. So whenever you're LS swapping an RX-7, you can't utilize that factory PPF, or you really don't want to, but they have that, it's called a PPF, connects the rear to the transmission in the factory FD RX7. So we have a diff brace system that we developed, and this car has it. It makes for, basically just gets the power to the ground a little bit better. There's a lot less movement in that rear, so either way, just it's kind of a must-do upgrade when you're doing the LS swap, but it's also a huge benefit. Even if you just had a bone stock FD RX7 with a factory motor, it'd be a great upgrade to just get that back end tightened up a bit. So you don't have a lot of movement. There's a high-performance polyurethane bushing back there that's keeping the nose of that rear at the right angle, and just locks everything in back there, and you don't got a lot of movement. Big slide's great. Alright, so that's a wrap on this FD RX7 turnkey build recap. To learn more about this build or the services we offer in the mount kits and other products for LS swapping your car, make sure you log on to SIKKY.com or get in touch with one of our knowledgeable sales reps today. And as always, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so you don't miss our next episode. See you next time.